Hello? Good morning. My name is Sylvia. Welcome to the CISO Vita presentation on how to get ready for tax. So who are we? We are CISO Vita. CISO Vita was the first Vita site serving the public since 1970. CISO Vita Clinic is a cost-free income tax assistance service for the low-income residents of the San Fernando Valley and beyond. CISO Vita is also the first Vita clinic in the nation to provide services to the deaf and hard of hearing community in ASL, partnering with Greater Los Angeles Agency on Deafness, also known as GLAD. This will be our third tax season providing services here at GLAD. So we have, for individuals, we have two tax authorities. The first one is the Internal Revenue Service. They oversee federal tax filing for individuals as well as businesses. The second is the Franchise Tax Board, also known as the FTB. They oversee state tax filing for individuals as well as businesses here in California. Filing your taxes with CISO Vita. When you file your taxes with CISO Vita, we will submit your tax return electronically for both the federal, which is the IRS, and the FTB. You don't have to do anything special. We will do all the work for you. Who should generally file? If you worked and earned income during the year, had taxes taken out of your paycheck, are self-employed, or did gig work. For example, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash. Received retirement income from pensions, Social Security income, and also to prevent identity theft. Income from jobs, you would get W-2 forms for gig work, independent contracting, or freelancing. You should receive a form 1099 NEC. Cash income, unemployment benefits. You should receive a form 1099G. Interest income from any account. You would receive a 1099 INT. Social Security income, you would receive a form SSA 1099. Retirement income, you should receive a 1099-R. Why file even if you don't have to? You may be missing out on money if you don't file. Filing can help you get a tax refund if you pay taxes on any income you made. Claim the Earned Income Tax Credit. Claim the Child Tax Credit. Claim education tax credit if eligible, and build a tax filing history. Filing can help beyond taxes. Filing a tax return can help you with financial aid, also known as FAFSA, housing applications, immigration documents, proof of income, and applying for any federal or state aid. There are several ways you can make an appointment with CSUN VITA. You can call our office at 818-677-3600. You will select 1 for English, and then the number 2 for the VITA clinic. You can also call Vlad to help book your appointment online, or you can email CSUN VITA for an appointment. Our email address is vita@csun.edu, or you can also use the QR code on our flyers. What to bring to your appointment. Once you have your appointment, make sure to bring the following. For new clients, your government issued ID, social security cards for all people included on the tax return. If you're a returning client, your government issued ID and prior year tax returns. All clients must bring tax forms. The most common forms that you should see will be W-2 for wages. This shows total wages earned and federal and state taxes withheld. 1099 NEC if you have self-employment income. 1099 miscellaneous for other income. 1099 interest. This is interest from bank accounts. A 1099 div. This is dividends from investment accounts. 1099G for unemployment income. An SSA 1099 for Social Security income. And health insurance forms. There are 3 types of health insurance forms that people should receive. You can receive one or a combination of these. The 1095A is when you have health insurance through Cover California. $1095B is issued if you have government-sponsored health insurance, for example, Medi-Cal, Medicaid, or Medicare. $1095C is issued to people who have had health insurance through their jobs. That's my presentation. Are there any questions?
Can you explain FAFSA? What does it mean and how parents can benefit or students can benefit from filing FAFSA or to apply for FAFSA?
Yes. So FAFSA is what you apply for financial aid when you want to go to college. And the Yes, so the child tax credit applies to parents who have children, under the age of 17. And it is a non-refundable credit, so depending on the amount of income, there is a threshold for that credit, and they will give you that credit to help reduce your taxable income. And it is a non-refundable income, so you do not get any money back, but it does reduce your taxable income or your tax, if you have any tax. If you do not owe any tax, then the child tax credit would not apply. But you might be eligible to receive the additional child tax credit, which is refundable.
Follow-up question, if you mind. Has the current immigration policies changed the child tax credit for parents with no satisfactory immigration status?
I have not done enough research on that to be able to answer. I've heard that there might be some changes, I just unfortunately haven't read on that, and I do apologize. I'd be more than happy to do some research and give you guys the information via an email so that it can be shared with parents. I do want to say that for the earned income tax credit, this credit is a refundable credit, but if a person on the tax return has an ITIN, you are not eligible to receive the earned income tax credit.
So those who want to file, but if GLAD appointments are full, are they able to have another interpreter available at other VITA sites?
So unfortunately, when you do want to make an appointment at any other of our sites, we don't have interpreters. And I do apologize, we only have our 2 interpreters here on Saturdays. But we have plenty of appointments. We never run out of appointments yet here at GLAD. But if this is very inconvenient for you and you live closer to the university, I can try to make sure that either I'm there, I usually sign, but because we're doing a live stream, it's more professional to have my interpreters, but I do sign and I can do your tax return at any of our other locations. You just would kind of have to tell us so that I can make an arrangement either for our interpreters to go or for me to be at that particular site for the day that you would like.
So do the GLAD appointments fill up? If they fill up, would we be able to take another appointment than like a, let's say a site at a library or
Yes,
other
of
location?
course, yes.
So I guess my question is, how would you provide the accommodations for that if it's not at GLAD, if it's at another location?
If it's on a day that we're not here at GLAD, on the appointment application, it asks if you need special accommodations or it asks if you need an ASL interpreter, and when you say yes, our office will call you. So please be sure that when you make your appointments, you put your VP number, because sometimes our student assistants call, so they'll call you and ask you, and then they'll ask me if I'm available or if our interpreters are available, and then if they're not available that particular day, then we can try to schedule you out for like a couple of weeks out, just to make sure that we can accommodate you. We try very hard to make sure that all of our clients who require ASL interpreting are accommodated. So we'll make sure that you get your equipment and get it taken care of in ASL for you. Any other questions?
So what tax year are we?
So
gonna file
this
for?
year, we are filing for 2025.
I had missed part of the presentation. Would you mind showing me one of the previous slides?
Sure. Yes,
After the presentation, we are gonna upload this to YouTube, including the visual of the PowerPoint. It'll also be on the Cloud website.
Thank you.
yes, I'm sure that Glad will make the live stream available to you guys and the PowerPoints, if I'm not mistaken.
So for those who work, what's the income limit? Like, what's the eligibility for the income?
So for CSUN Vida, the eligibility, the income limit is 69,000. But if you have a W-2 and it says 70,000, we will still take your appointment. We won't exclude you from our appointments, so don't worry. Any other questions? Somebody wanted to see a previous slide. Which slide did you want to see? There's a question.
So I had a question about write-offs. What are some things that could be used as write-offs on our taxes?
I'm sorry, can you ask the question again? Oh, for write-offs? It depends on what you do as work. If you are an independent contractor or self-employed, it would be with the line of business that you do. For example, if you are a hairdresser, you would be able to write off things that have to do with that field of work. For example, scissors, shampoos, hair color, things like that. So it depends on what your job is if you are an independent contractor. If you are a wage earner, which means that you go to a job and you have a W-2, then you can't write things off for your job because it is expected for your employer to provide you all the things that you need to do your job, if that makes sense.
So I guess, my question is more in regards to like what supplies or other things that could be used as write-offs, like for example, books or other materials.
Okay, so.
Can you expand on that a little more on that part?
Sure, so, if you are like a chef, you could, if you have to purchase materials, for example, pots and pans and knives, these are things that you can write off. So it has to be something that the IRS deems necessary and ordinary for you to be able to do your job. So if you're a chef, you don't necessarily need to purchase, let's say, a calculator or accounting books, right? So you would use things that are connected to the line of work that you do. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Yes? Okay. So when you're an independent contractor, or self-employed and you have write-offs, when you come to do your tax return, whether it's with VITA or anywhere else that you go, there is something called a Schedule C, and that is where we enter the expenses. So it's a schedule, you would not have a form, but we do recommend that you write down all of your expenses so we can see which ones are with the line of work that you're doing. Again, they have to be considered necessary and ordinary expenses for the line of work that you do.
So for any deaf people, if, let's say, if they lose their work and they don't have health insurance, is there a penalty that they would have to pay?
Yes, if you live in the state of California, there is a penalty for not having minimal essential coverage. So that, the calculation happens in our software, so some people have health insurance maybe for 6 months, or they have it for 9 months. But California does allow you to have a short coverage gap, and that means that if you didn't have health insurance for 3 consecutive months. So for example, let's say you lost your job and you didn't find another job for 3 months, so you didn't have health insurance, but in your new job you do get health insurance, you don't get penalized for that, but you would get penalized for anything above the 3-month short coverage gap. And the short coverage gap has to be consecutive. But this is only for the state of California. I'm not aware of the information for other states. So I know that our live streaming is going to different locations, so I just wanted to be clear that it's only for California. I do not know state tax law for other states.
So for health insurance, Form 1099C. If I have health insurance that I pay for aside from having another health insurance, would I receive any money back?
It depends on, okay, let me see if I understood you correctly, just to make sure that I'm clear. So you have health insurance, and, okay, is
Yes,
it
sir.
through your job?
Yes, through my job.
Okay, so, and you have additional health insurance?
Oh, only one.
Okay. So when you have health insurance through your job, you pay for a portion and your employer pays for a portion, correct?
So the company pays for it, not me.
Okay.
But if I go to a hospital and I have to
Oh.
pay more,
For your co-payments.
yes, that,
Okay.
the co-payments.
Okay. So, when we do your tax return, there is something called the itemized deductions. Let me go back, I'm sorry. So, there's a standard deduction and an itemized deduction. If you had a lot of medical bills, you can go ahead and include those in your tax return. They might not be high enough to offset it, but it would take some calculation for us to know, because we have to put it into the system to see if it's higher than the standard deduction or lower. If it's lower than the standard deduction, then it will not affect the tax return. If it is higher than the standard deduction, it will affect the tax return. So it would just depend on the amount. Right. Does that answer the question? Yes?
Yes, it does.
Great, thank you.
So another example, what if I have like a lot of bills from the dentist? Would I be able to include those as like a tax write-off?
You can include them, again, it would fall under the same thing, because it would be any medical expenses that includes your dental. Let's say you got a lot of bills from the dentist, the doctor co-payment, even rides to the medical facilities if you pay for like certain transportation, co-payments, pharmacy bills. You can include everything that's in scope within the medical bills. But again, we would have to see if it is higher or lower than the standard deduction. And I want to apologize ahead of time because I still haven't memorized the standard deductions for this tax season, and I'm so sorry. I will definitely provide that to GLAD.
One last question. So for the filing status, like if you're single or married, let's say I get a W-2 form for 2025. When I fill out the tax information, if I was married like 2 years ago, how would I know
Your
what my
filing
filing
status?
status is? How would I determine that?
Okay, so your filing status is dependent on what you were at the last day of the year. So, if on December 31st, 2025, you are still legally married, you would file your tax return as married filing joint. If you were divorced by the day of December 31st, 2025, you would be filing your return as single. So it depends what you were at the last day of the year. That includes children. So if a child was born on December 31st, we could include them on the tax return. We just need to make sure that you have their social security number for that child to be included in the tax return. Also, if you were married in 2025 and your spouse passed away in 2025, for 2025, you would still file as married filing joint for that year.
Got it, thank you. So I was wondering for all things like connected to medical insurance.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So for those who don't receive the W-2 form, would they be able to include the health insurance or medical expenses as a tax write-off?
Yes, everybody can include that. Everyone can include the medical and dental expenses into their tax return. It's not limited to only if you worked as a W-2. You could have been an independent contractor, you could have had cash income, it doesn't matter. If you had those medical expenses, you can include them. We just need, again, to make sure that they either exceed the standard deduction to actually affect your tax return.
What about people who receive social security income? Would they have to report that?
So the reason why we recommend that people file a tax return, even if you don't meet meet the filing requirement. So like you're saying, if you only receive social security income, the reason is that it helps prevent identity theft. After COVID, and we saw a rise in identity theft because people were stealing other people's mail. And so when we file a tax return, we're informing both the state and the federal government that you only receive social security income. So there should be no other income being reported under your social security number. If you feel that you might be a victim of identity theft, please let us know when you come to GLAAD so that we can refer you to our sister clinic. We do have a sister clinic named the Low Income Tax Clinic that we refer to as LITC. They deal in tax problems or issues. So if somebody has identity theft or anything, any letters that they're receiving from the IRS, we refer you to them and they will be more than happy to help you. Please keep in mind that all of our services and LITC services are free of charge. You don't have to pay for anything.
So my question is, so if I receive SSDI, and I'm married,
I'm sorry.
and I work, I'm married and I work, or I'm not married and I'm single. What would be the difference if I'm married with SSDI versus I'm not married and I'm receiving SSDI?
There's nothing different on the tax return. The only difference would be if your spouse is working, then there's income. But if both of you are recipients of SSDI, there is no difference in the tax return because there is no taxable income.
So I was wondering, would you mind explaining that again, just a little more generally, because, if, like, for example, if a person gets SSDI and the spouse is working, would they put themselves as single, or would they file differently?
No, so let me see if I understand. You wanna know if you receive SSDI and you're married and your spouse works? Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so you would file a tax return as married filing joint. The difference between the filing statuses is the standard deduction. The standard deduction is given both from the federal and the state to help reduce your taxable income. So you would file as married filing joint, and the standard deduction for married filing joint would reduce whatever taxable income your spouse has. But because you don't receive any earned income or working income, you just receive SSDI, and that is non-taxable, it wouldn't really affect that much. But it is my understanding that depending on the household income, if you're married, a portion of it, a portion of your SSDI can be taxed. But I don't know the percentage because it depends on the earned wages, if I am not mistaken. You would have to ask the Department of Social Security Services for that.
Thank you. So if my husband and I work in different fields, but if we'd rather filling out two separate forms instead of joining,
So,
There are different.
filing statuses, there is a single, there is married filing joint, there is married filing separate, there is head of household, and there is qualifying surviving spouse. For CSUN VITA and all VITA sites, married filing separate is something that we do not do. It is a filing status, you are able to file that way with any other entity, but just not with CSUN VITA. The IRS limits some of the things that we are allowed to do. So we are not allowed to file, married filing separate. We would, if you wanted to get your taxes done with us, it would have to be married filing joint. If you are legally married at the end of 2025.
So you mean it would be one tax, like,
One tax return for both people. No, it's one tax return. One tax return for both people. The different forms are your income forms, because you have one W-2 from your job and your spouse would have a W-2 from their job. So then it would just combine the income, it would make them one full income for the tax return.
so which would be better to do? I'm not sure if it would be better to file joint or separate, or if I should maybe put myself as head of household.
I can answer that, after the live stream, if that's okay, if that's okay. Sorry.
No, that's all right. For any deaf people who own small businesses, how much would they be able to report, or would they not have to report?
Yes, you have to report all income. So all of your income. So the way that it works is you report your income and then it is offset by your expenses. So it doesn't matter, if you make anything above $400, and you're self-employed or you are a gig worker, you have to report the income, because that is when self-employment tax starts to affect the tax return. If you are a business and you are registered, depending on how you registered, you would file those types of business taxes. But it depends on how you registered your business. But yes, we report all income.
Had I read about a law that if it's over $600, that you have to report your income, if it's under that, you wouldn't be required to report it.
Okay, so for any income that comes from cash or, let's say, self-employment or independent contracting or freelancing, which means that you receive the full amount of what you're billing, you have to file a tax return if you make more than $400. On your W-2s, you don't have to file it, but if you pay tax, you may be eligible to receive that refunded portion of the tax to you and qualify for other credits, like the earned income tax credit.
So I had another question about, been receiving many emails up until now about different settlements
Yes, so if you receive any type of settlement, you will also receive a tax form. So when you receive that tax form, we include that in the tax return, and it would depend on how it's being reported. Some might include it as a 1099 miscellaneous, so it's taxed differently. So depending on the form, it might be taxed differently. But you should receive a form if you got the settlement in 2025.
So he reminded me, so you were in a car accident and their insurance asked for you to pay the expenses of the accident, or vice versa. Would you be able to include that as an expense or something under your taxes?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. Let me see if I understood. If you're involved in a car accident and you have to pay for,
It's their fault, not my fault.
okay, it was your fault and you got into a car accident,
That they were at fault.
okay,
So if it was a third party group,
are you,
and they're paying me money for
your
the
settlement,
accident.
your settlement money for the accident?
Yeah, so kind of the same idea from what he was explaining.
So-
You receive settlement money from insurance company from the
Okay,
accident.
so, again, they would send you a form, depending on how the process works. Sometimes the settlement companies go to send the money to the attorneys, if there's attorneys involved. They'll send the lump sum to the attorney, and the attorney takes out their portion, and they might issue you, a form for the remaining amount. So then, whatever form you receive from the remaining amount is what we include in your tax. There are settlements that are non-taxable, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it is for personal injury. So that might not be taxable, but I'm not 100% sure, so I don't wanna go on record saying that it is fully non-taxable, but I think it's.
So if I receive the tax form, relating to that,
So anytime you receive a tax form, just bring it. We can determine if it's something that, is going to need to be included. I know that sometimes we receive random tax forms and we don't know. So just bring it to us and we'll be more than happy to tell you, if we have to include it or not.
so talking about the appointments, I was wondering what you would want from, like what the staff would want for us to do in order to prepare, for the appointment, to kind of save your time.
So for your appointments, you will need to, bring the following. If you are a new client, you would go ahead and bring your government issued ID, your social security card, for you and all the people included in the tax return. If you don't have, your physical social security card, but you have a copy, or you have, a picture of it on your phone, we will accept that, so you don't have to bring it if you're scared to lose it. And all of your tax documents, any document that says that it's for your taxes, go ahead and bring them. If you're a returning client, all you need to do is bring your prior year tax return, from VITA, and we will use that as a reference. It doesn't necessarily mean that you did your taxes with GLAD VITA. It could be that you went to one of our libraries, or you went to another VITA site like VITA, University or Cal State LA VITA, anything that says VITA on it, we will honor it.
Thank you.
If you drive for Uber or Lyft, what kind of documents will you bring?
So for Uber and Lyft, you will be given a 1099 NEC perhaps, and if not, you will get a, on your application that you use for Uber, you can go into the financials and the tax forms, and you can have something called the tax summary. The tax summary gives the information of the miles driven, and how much you paid for Uber or Lyft fees. They're called platform fees, and then we include that in the tax return. So you might not actually have a 1099 NEC, but you will have the summary on your account under the tax documents, and you just print that out, and we'll take care of that for you.
Do we have to keep track of the mileage or the gas or any kind of car maintenance?
No, so when you come to VITA, you do the standard mileage, and on your summary, it shows the mileage. Unfortunately, I didn't include these forms, on the PowerPoint, but I will be providing the forms to Vlad so that you can see an example of what the forms look like. For the people that are live streamed, I'm sorry, I don't have them with me. For the people that are here, we did print out a little packet of common tax forms. So you can take those and you can see them. Some of them have information, but don't worry, it's not personal information. These are the documents that we use for our trainings. So it's not a real person, it's a made-up person. And there you can see a summary of what it looks like. I will email Vlad the forms so that they can provide them to all of you so you can see what they look like.
So my question is for the April 15th deadline. What about people who were impacted by the wildfires? Do they have an extension for the deadline?
That was for last year. Their extension was up until October 15th.
For 2026 or
2025. So this year's, tax filing deadline for California, again, I can only speak on California, is, April 15th, 2026 for individual tax returns.
I do remember that we did also have some wildfires that happened around Santa Monica and
Pasadena, yes.
as well. Would we also be able, or do they also have to abide by the April 15th deadline?
Yes, for 2026, yes. They haven't, said anything about extending it. I also wanted to tell everyone something that's very important. Please make sure that when you're trying to find information on tax information, or if somebody said something on Facebook and they're saying, for example, oh, they extended the deadline, please go to the tax authority's website. The reason is that they are the ones who give the most updated information for your area. If you're in California, it would be the FTE. If you're in a different state, please look up your state, but for the federal government, it would be the IRS. Also, please do not answer any phone calls if they're saying that they are the IRS or the FTE. They do not call you. The only time that the FTE or IRS will call you is if you first call them and there's a long wait and they ask you, do you want a call back? you're asking them to call you back because you don't wanna stay on the phone because you're doing something. Both of them will call you back, but when they do call you back, they identify themselves as the person, who they are, usually their ID number that corresponds to them for their job. So please, if you do speak to somebody from the IRS or the FTP, make a note of their name, their ID number, the day and time that you spoke to them, okay? That way there is record for whatever reason. If you need it, we can always, refer to that. If there's something that we need to help you with, we can send you to our sister clinic and they will have that proof or that record that you did speak to somebody, the time and date that you spoke to them. But you should not be receiving phone calls from the IRS saying that you owe the money. They do not email you. They do not send you postcards that are not official IRS or FTE documents. And you can always create your account online for the IRS and FTB, and in that account you have a mailbox, and you can always check if you have any notices or if you have any mail that they are asking you to look at, if you don't get the physical one. Any other questions? Yes? No. If you are a W-2 worker, you are not allowed to add your personal expenses to your tax return if it's related to your job. If it's related to your medical expenses, yes, you're able to. But nothing if it's work related. For example, you wanna say, oh, I purchased books or notebooks because I needed them for work. It is implied that your employer provides you with all of the things necessary to do your job for them. I know some people have asked me in the past if you drive to different locations. For example, like CSUM Vita, we drive to different locations. It depends on your employer if they will reimburse you for those miles, but you can't write them off on your tax return. That's between you and your employer.
If I don't have social security number and I work, is there a way for me to still report that income?
Yes, so the IRS provides people who do not qualify to have a social security income, social security number, I'm so sorry. A number called an individual taxpayer identification number. And they issue this for tax purposes for you to be able to pay your taxes. CSUM Vita does provide assistance in getting you an ITIN. We have 2 certified accepting agents for our campus, when you would bring the documents necessary to apply for your ITIN, and we'll be happy to do the application for you. You must file a federal tax return with the application though. So if you didn't have income, you can't apply for it. You have to have had some income and you're using it to apply for the ITIN.
If I have children, but I'm no longer with the partner, if I have 2 children, can we both parents report the children for our independence tax?
No. So the person who would claim the children is the person who has the children and supports the children more than 51%. So if you have, in some cases, we have parents that have 50% custody. They opt to 1 year, one parent claims the children, the next year the other parent claims the children, so you can have that type of arrangement, but that arrangement is between the parents. We don't have any say in how they claim them. the children the most and who supports the children more than 51%. Now, if you are separated and each parent kept one child, then yes, each parent would file with that child correspondingly.
Last question. For child custody support, is that something that we should also report?
No, so any income received for child support is not reportable income. It's not taxable because it is providing support for a child, so no, that is not, you don't need to report that. Any questions from the live stream? I don't know. Thank you so much. I hope that I was able to answer everyone's questions. I will be here after the presentation, so if you have more personalized questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. If you'd like to schedule your appointment, I'll also be